Greetings. I usually don't do videos like this on my channel, but we're going to go ahead and do one anyways because I really enjoy doing this with pigments, is creating what I call instant moods. And we have a whole set of these things on our site with tons of these things. These are basically one finger patches that you can use to fill out sound or create a mood by themselves. And I'll go ahead and play the one we're going to emulate. So believe it or not, that's just one patch, okay? And this is one of the most hidden aspects of pigments. I'm not using the sequencer either. And by not using the sequencer, because everything is tied together in time, you have a lot more control with how things go on. You could have things that evolve over a huge long period of time, which change drastically over time, as well as create all kinds of different interesting effects you cannot get with the sequencer. Now, if you've never used pigments, there's a built-in sequencer. It's kind of like an arpeggiator, and sometimes, well, you can create melodic lines and such, but I found it to be a little bit more limited than this technique I use with this. What I'm going to do is use these harp samples that are in our soft cinema keys, and we're going to create a flat 6 kind of mysterious vibe to create that mood we heard that was playing before. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate all but one sample, because you could do this with just one sample. So eliminate E. We need just let me see, 4 to create a root third and a flat 6. We're going to keep C4, and we'll just copy C4 to lane D. There's the little copy thing you get. For some reason it doesn't show up in OBS Studio, so I had to paste it there. So you just want to copy C4 to all lanes. So for now, everything's mapped as if that C4 is going to trigger like a normal keyboard playing. Okay. Obviously, harp players can't play harmonics that fast, but in fact, this isn't even going to resemble a harp when we're done. So what we're going to do is just tune everything to be, well, a unison. So we'll go ahead and just start that process. Okay, there you go. So the top one's already at the same unison, so we need just the bottom one now, because we don't want a huge, large displacement of octaves when we start to build our little flat 6 sequence. So they're all the same unison. So what I would do is I'd take the lowest sample, it's the same sample, and then tune the same one to where it's playing the third of a major chord. Now, if your ear training is good enough, it should be easy to find a major third up. But if it's not, I'll show you the note that you need here. So there we go, a G sharp 1 produces the major third. So what we're going to do is the same process on sample C, but now we want the 5th. So you want root third 5th. And there's the 5th, okay? If I'm just playing in that zone there, we want that to be on the next C. So we're going to go ahead and tune sample C to be a 5th. So remember, if your ear is good enough, you could find the 5th pretty easy, but you're going to have the note here for you. It's F2. Oops, hit the wrong note. Should be that other C. I'm looking at the screen, so it's hard to, I messed that up. Every time you play a C going up in octaves, you produced a C major chord. So this is going to be the flat 6, the D sample, in sample lane D. So we want that C to sound as in G sharp or an A flat. A flat's technically the flat 6. So putting E3 there will produce the flat 6. So, playing all the C's, see, we have a flat 6 arpeggio now, if we play just C's. So now if you just play octaves anyways, you could produce that on like D flat or something. You can change keys. So Switching this to the granular engine and using sync, okay? We're going to use about 1/8 and 1/8. Maybe 1/4. Let's just start there because... So we want some kind of pulse. So I'm going to take that. Moving the middle button will actually make it a little bit more sharper of an attack. So we're going to go to map and we're going to hit random. So it doesn't sound very good right now, but it will sound very good when we're done. One thing I'm noticing is the flat 6 is sounding an octave too low on the D sample lane that has the flat 6. And I'll tell you when it comes up now. Let's listen after I tune it up an octave. There it was. Okay, it's random, so it's only going to show up randomly. I would highly recommend, if you can't identify intervals like a flat 6 or that which is a minor 6 and whatnot, that do some ear training. It does help you to do these things very quickly. So what I'm going to do is just add a little verb to this, just so we have some kind of and remove these effects, bus things. This is just to give us some kind of sense of space, and it helps you build the patch. For me it does anyways, when I have a little bit of effect on there. So we're going to go ahead and go to function. It doesn't matter which function you choose. I'm just going to choose 2 because that's what I chose. Sorry for the brain lapse. And what we're going to do is create a gradual crescendo. We're going to take that down a little bit, have it really, really slow. And look, that's synced to time as well. This is the beauty of pigments. Everything can be synced to time. So I'm using this as a crescendo. So we have a little bit of our first layer of our instant mood. And function speed is controllable. What I'm going to do is stick function 2 also on the little sine wave there, and maybe just have a static note come in with the crescendo as well. Okay, these little layering kind of things actually build up to create a wall of sound. They totally inaudible when you're doing stuff. So let's choose our bass patch. First, just turning on the sample engine. We already have a small little mood that we can use already, but to me it's not enough yet. We need more layering. So this is one of the stock sounds, bass riser 2. We'll just use that. That's already kind of cool already. So but we're going to make it even cooler because we're going to give the bass a pulse. Turn on the granular engine. We're not going to rely on the sequencer, remember? To put this to sync, I'm doing this all live, so about 1/8. So it's pretty static right now. I want that bass pulse to be crisper, so under the granular button again, if you just create a shape like that, it'll be a little bit more staccato-like. So we're getting there. We might want to do something with the bass, or let's go ahead and take function 1. We'll create a different kind of like crescendo. It's not going to be as crescendo-y as the flat 6 pulse. Do something like this, 2:1 ratio. Stick it on the start area and just have it go through that, the sample like that, producing different variations, and maybe just a smaller crescendo rise up. That's the beauty of pigments. Everything you can sync to time. So let's go ahead and take function 2 and stick it on the cutoff. And we'll just use multi-mode just because it's there. We're just doing this very quick and just have it gradually open up. So it opens up on our crescendo function. So maybe mess with some other parameters, but we'll go ahead and get to that later. So might go to the effects now and stick in a PS delay. You don't want it all the way down, because what we're going to do is a little trick I use sometimes is I'll switch 1 to a half and then these are also sync to time, and 1 to maybe a quarter. And the reason I don't want them to fully stop and shut off is because it suddenly just shuts off and it sounds strange. But now they're synced to crescendo, so they'll gradually open up as well. So you have a little bit more variation on your little flat 6 arpeggiation. It makes it sound a little bit more than what it's really going on. Maybe take the feedback down. I don't like a lot of feedback. Pretty cool. Again, I don't like to fully turn them off because when the delay stops suddenly, it sounds strange. So I'm going to go to Utility Engine 1, and I already know that I'm going to choose Distant Thunder, one of the natural sounds, and we're going to create like a rhythmic pulse with this natural sound. We're going to take the third function and stick it, hold up, that's function 2, sorry. Leaving the mistakes in here, I'm not going to edit that out. So function 3, it's going boom, 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 sync to time. And we're going to make these even more interesting too. So let's tune that down, okay? And let's go to envelope 2 and have it trigger with function 1. You do that with the retrigger source, function 1. It'll retrigger every time function 1 goes through a cycle. So we're going to put that on tune, so every once in a while we'll have a higher pitched smack, if that's what we want to call it, smack. We're emulating percussive things with thunder. And we're going to stick a little on the volume too. It'll give it an accent. You can hear it now, it sounds like an accent. Okay, so we're going to use analog noise, and we're just going to have this trigger off of envelope 2 to highlight the accent. Just choose a setting. Okay, so pretty cool so far. You can hear that delay kind of fading out. That's fixable in sequencers and whatnot. So I'm going to go Effects B, and we're going to make this. I'm not a big mid-range kind of person. Sometimes it can drive me nuts. I usually take it out. And then we're going to stick a little shimmer in here, giving it that high-sounding string effect. So that changes things already. You hear how you get that high-pitched kind of stringy sound? That's what I like about shimmer. So let's keep moving on. Let's keep adding to this. Let's go back to Utility Engine Oscillator. And we're going to go ahead and leave it on a triangle. So we don't want that static tone. And I lost my keyboard here for a second, but I did quantize this to flat 6. If you go into that quantize button and then hit the pencil, you could literally draw in a keyboard looking flat 6. Now we're going to take the volume down. This will add to our little layer of flat 6 because we're going to put a crescendo on it, and also put a little bit of we're going to put function 1 on the how it behaves with the quantized flat 6. And just set the volume where you want it. A little more subtle for me. So you have that little wall of flat 6 kind of sound happening on the crescendo. And we have a kind of a mysterious vibe going on here. So let's go to our macro tune. Here's what I like to do often is assign it to a random 3. When you turn it on, it increases the chance of random happening. And then you turn it off, it stops random from happening. You might change, I might slow it down a little bit because the amount of times it happens, because the tempo's not really fast in this. We'll assign it to a bunch of things, and then later on it'll play. Like, just put it subtly on things. Don't do it drastically. You're going to hear it as drastic. I'm not going to play it right now. We're just stuck it on there. This is what we got so far. I just wanted to assign that really quick. And we're going to assign it also to sample engine 1 here in a second. Go to quantize. If you hit that and take out every note, you're going to have octave displacement. I might stick the random on that, just subtly too. So sometimes some of those things will come out slightly higher. Go to main, maybe stick it on the timing of that pulse of the flat 6 aspect. We're basically building a wall of sound. Sticking macro 2 on right below to give it a sharper sound when you turn macro 2 on. Maybe stick it on density. That means you'll hear more of the granular engine. So I'm not going to turn anything on yet. That's what we had so far. Now, turning it on, it's going to give us a slight variation. So you hear how it's a little different than the other one because we have a slight bit of randomness in there. And the cool part about that is it will never be exactly the same each time you do it. So taking macro 3, I like to assign these usually to function times, and we're going to slow it way down so the crescendo is much longer. This is another thing you could do. You could speed it up, slow it back down, etc., etc. Now, unlike the sequencer, you could actually make these things even become more long and drawn out, as well as change drastically over time as well. This one's pretty subtle. It's just a crescendo, decrescendo. That's gradual. But you could do all kinds of things that you normally can't really do as well with the sequencer. I think it's because there's a little bit more of a musical element to these kind of patches, because you're kind of using knowledge, flat 6 major chord with wall of sound of that, with crescendos, decrescendos, adding a little bit of musical kind of composition thinking into these patches. You could do other things like this. Go to the bass layer, choose sawtooth, and put that on the crescendo as well, and add another aspect to it. So it just gradually comes in faster now. So that's it. Enjoy creating an instant mood. They're a lot of fun, and we have a whole packs of these for people who don't want to go through this process. I like creating these myself, but if you don't, the links are in the description. We have 2 sets of these things. In all honesty, if I was like an electronic-based film composer, which I'm not, I'm usually more orchestral oriented and do a lot of stuff like that. But if I wanted to go into that area, I would probably make a ton of these for myself as little templates in various moods, from disconcerting, super, just tense, etc., all kinds of different moods that I could use as just templates that I could just throw at something and see, will this work with this? And that's what I would do anyway. And they also work great over just playing static chords with pads and whatnot. Now, if you don't like making presets, we have a ton of presets called Instant Moods Volume 1 and 2 that we have on our site, which you could buy as Pigment sound banks. Just a ton of these things with all kinds of different feels, everything you could think of.